Hello and welcome back to our podcast, The Gaily Digest. As always, I am Nigel.
And I am Joshua.
Hello, Joshua. On this edition, we have got our usual news roundup. We've got the complaints closet, which has come back, and we have got a segment on a very important topic, a very important subject that me and Joshua will be talking about, and that is around eating disorders and body image. And we will also have something very special at the end in the form of a competition where you can win yourself a fabulous prize.
I'm excited. Not that I can win.
Yes, well, it would be a bit unfair if you were to win the prize.
True.
Exactly. Anyway, so without further ado, let's crack on with the show. It's now time for the news roundup. The first bit of news that we're going to talk about today is the news about the Rainbow Quarter in Blackpool. An LGBTQ plus group has created a Blackpool Rainbow Quarter. Rainbows have been popping up and appearing on street signs in Blackpool as a community group works with councils to support LGBTQ plus people in the resort. This coincides with Blackpool developing its Be Who You Want to Be area, which aims to boost inclusivity and help regenerate the north of the town. There's also been zebra crossings and street planters that have also been decorated with the many colours of the Progress Pride flag, obviously the symbol of the LGBTQ plus community. 2 rainbow zebra crossings were added last year, and I think this is a really positive step, really positive way forward. And I think that that's something that would be great to see, I think, all over the country, in all the various towns. And the idea of a Be Who You Want to Be area, I think that's great, don't you?
Yeah, because we went to, I'm not sure where it was, we went to near you one time and that had a lot of pride things around the town and stuff. And I think if you weren't out yet, young kid, young teenager, makes you feel safe, makes you feel like there's an accepting place.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? There are a lot of people out there that tend to target us for having pride flags flown, but the purpose of them, what people fail to realise, is that they are there to help support those who aren't out, make people feel that it's a safe environment. It's not about indoctrination or anything like that they keep telling us. It's simply there for those purposes to help show people that they're valued, they're welcomed. It's a sign of symbolism. At the end of the day, it's not a recruitment drive or anything like that. You can't recruit people to be gay.
To be fair, a lot of these right wingers think if you cross the zebra crossing, you'll be gay by the time you get to the other side.
Maybe we should just help them along.
Same as the stairs. Have you seen those people? They'll hang onto the railings and like climb up the railing rather than touch these rainbow steps because they're so insecure.
Oh dear, but that's insecurity for you, unfortunately. But yeah, I think it's great, and if ever we venture to Blackpool, it'd be nice to go there and see them.
Definitely.
What about you? What news have you found?
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to talk about Trump.
Oh,
And I'm sorry, I apologise. But yeah, Stonewall jobs are at risk because of Trump's foreign aid cuts. Obviously, he's been slashing a lot of LGBT things lately. But yeah, Stonewall could lose up to 114 staff just because of the decisions he's making. They normally receive around £500,000 from funds from America, which they're now not going to get. And this doesn't just affect Stonewall, though. This affects a lot of global charities as well. There's a lot of charities in Africa and places that help people get treated for HIV and tested and things. And I've seen news videos of people in Africa showing up at these clinics to get HIV medication. And when they've arrived, the clinic's closed, it's completely shut down, there's nobody there because all the money's gone. And these people were saying, what do I do? Because if they're not on medication, it's going to get worse. and now it's just gone. Overnight it's just gone. So it's things like that. And obviously he's banning documentation having your um, gender markers. They have to be what you were assigned at birth, which is also going to affect, which people aren't really talking about. This is also going to affect people going to America. You're not going to be able to get visas because they've changed it that visas have to have your assigned marker. So if you're from the UK, for example, and you've had your birth certificate, passport, driver's license, everything has been changed to your gender that you identify as, you wouldn't be able to get a visa to go to America at all unless all of your documentation has the marker of when you were assigned at birth. But you go that would correct everything you've gone through to be who you are in the first place. So not many people are talking about that side of it as well.
And it's something we need to talk about, I think, a bit more. I mean, it is quite clearly an attack on our community and things that affect our community as well. I mean, what you talk about, HIV medication, the funding being stopped, and that's it. There's no more medication; it's run out because they've not got the funding to replace it. That is effectively giving those who rely on that medication a potential death sentence.
Well, it was only the last episode you were talking to Nathaniel about hitting this target globally.
Yeah.
And during LGBT History Month, Trump's made this decision as well, so that's even more of a hit. And now they're also removing off all government websites anything about HIV, how to treat it, about PrEP, all these things. Oscar agrees; he's angry at that. But yeah, this is what he's doing, and it doesn't just affect America; it literally affects globally around the world.
Yeah, I mean, moving aside from that slightly, I think the only funny thing that's come out about Trump recently in the news was the news of his that video that was going around all the offices.
Who knew he had a foot fetish?
Where he's French kissing Elon Musk's feet.
I need them to do that on Times Square and stuff.
But yeah, but no, I mean, it is shocking that how our community is going to be negatively impacted by his cuts and
one man's decision is going to have drastic effects on millions.
But it just reinforces the fact that there is still a lot of work that we need to do, and the fight continues. We need to keep pushing for equality and diversity, so that everybody feels valued, everybody feels welcome, and everybody feels that they've got a purpose in life.
I agree.
It's now time for our regular edition of the Complaints Closet, where we have a little bit of a moan, a little bit of a rant about things that annoy us. It's all meant as light-hearted. Don't take it personally. Don't take it seriously. It's just meant for a bit of fun. Now, we're going to reduce it to just one thing each. We've done two things each, but we think that one thing each is enough to have a little bit of a moan about each episode. So, Joshua, what's your rant this week?
Well, mine is people who ask questions on social media when they could Google it. I see this every single day. It's worse on Facebook because it's for the oldies, but every day I see this. Like, what time does the post office open? What time does Asda close? Google it. The time that you've took to log into this account, type it up on this group, post it, and then wait for a reply. You could have Googled it. And it irritates me. It really irritates me.
It's true, though. It is true. You get people that will literally they'll go on to Facebook, for example. They'll then search for the group they want to put the post into. So they've got to type in the group into the search banner, get the group, find it, click on it, then click into the box to say what they want to write, what their question is, and then And then, yeah, then they've got to type that question, click post, and then wait for people to answer. And then people will generally give different answers.
Yeah, people always respond with 18 different times. Or you'll get these other people that go, I don't know. Why are you replying then? If you don't know, why are you commenting? I
Yeah,
see
but
this every day, Nigel, like 8 times a day at least, all the time. It drives me insane.
yeah, but you're one of those people that says, I don't know.
Or I will say, have you tried this thing called Google? It's very quick and easy, and it will tell you the exact answer. And instead of relying on Maureen, who doesn't know.
Oh dear. But yeah, for the time it's taken them to do that, they could have Googled it and had their answer probably an hour ago.
The correct answer. And it'll even give you directions. So it's giving you all the things you need.
And it'll tell you how busy it is as well.
Exactly. Or you can just order things online like I do, then you don't have to go near anybody. But anyway, what's your complaint this time? Is it bodily functions or you drifted off of that now?
Uh, Dribble piss.
Oh God. You're still having that
No.
issue. Should get that tested.
No, it's not dribble piss. It's not dribble piss at all. Um, my one this week is parents that see their child doing bad things and just let them get on with it.
Oh God, no. I nick you. No.
I'm not talking about that. The other day, I was in the post office. There's a bit of a post office theme to this. I was in the post office and I was in the queue waiting to post something. Behind me was a darling little crotch goblin in a pushchair with the parent behind the pushchair. As I was stood there, back of my legs kept getting kicked by the kid. And turned round, give the parent a look. You gonna stop your kid from kicking me? No? Oh, okay. And they just let them get on with it. It's stuff like that. They just let them get on with it. And it's almost like, oh, they're only kids. Oh, bless them. No, don't not bless them. Teach them right from wrong. They're at an early age. They're at an age where they can learn about things, about right from wrong. And all they've got to do is say, no, you don't do that. That's not very nice. Simple. They learn the lesson from a young age.
Exactly. Plus, they're your children. They're not my children. I don't want to know they exist. So keep them away from me.
It's no, but it's not just that. You're right in that it's their children, not our children, and it's down to them to tell them off. It's not down to us to tell them off. Because the moment we turn around to the kid and say, "Can you stop doing that?" the parent goes, "Oh, leave them alone. They're only a kid." Well, you're the parent. Have some responsibility.
Yeah. I'd kick them back.
Yeah, I wouldn't go to that extreme. 'Cause that
Accidentally.
I wouldn't go to that extreme.
Accidentally tip over their pushchair. No, I wouldn't really. I'm just joking.
Yes, I can't say I condone that behaviour, Joshua.
But yeah, you do. You always. They always give the line of, "Oh, they're only kids. Oh, aren't they cute?" No, they're
I mean,
annoying.
don't get me wrong. There are things they'll do, when they're at a young age that are quite funny, they are quite cute. But then there are things that they do and they're just annoying or loud.
They're always loud. They're always sticky.
It's like when you're trying to enjoy a coffee in a coffee shop somewhere and then the kids are running around screaming, um, chasing each other, and all you want to do is sit there, read your book, enjoy a coffee, and you got this kid running past you, screaming, bumping into your chair, and then falling over, and you think, well, that's your own fault. You've
And then
only
you
got
have
your
to try not to laugh.
Yeah. It's like I was in the shop. I was shopping the other day, and a kid literally walked into my trolley because they weren't looking where they were going. They literally ran into my trolley because they weren't looking where they're going. And the parent gave me such a filthy look, and it's like, hang on a minute, that was
Put a
your
leash on
kid.
them.
That was your kid that did that, not me. I was walking along. They've run into the side of my trolley. How is that my fault?
You know how there's that new law where dogs have to be on a leash when they're in public.
No, no,
Get them.
no, no,
They
no,
do little wrist straps.
no. I'm stopping you there, Joshua. I'm stopping you
Or just
there.
put them in the trolley with the seat.
That's better.
That way they're not near me. They're contained. Children should be contained.
Oh, I wish I'd never mentioned this one now.
I can rant about anything,
Oh, I know you can. I've heard you.
as is everybody else now.
Oh dear. Well, that is about all we've got time for in the complaints closet today. So let's go on to our next topic. Do you like to smell good?
Do you like using products that are cruelty and aluminium free?
Do you like using products that use natural ingredients?
Or how about you go wild?
Wild have a range of products that smell good, are cruelty and aluminium free, and use natural ingredients. They're also vegan.
Depending on what you like, their products range from lip balms, deodorants, soap bars for body and shampoo, body washes that I personally use for hand wash also, shampoos and conditioners. Between us, we've been using Wild products for a number of years now. We think they're great.
With compostable refills, Wild is eliminating single-use plastics. Even the body wash, shampoo and conditioner bottles look and feel like plastic, but they are 100% compostable. To get you started, we've partnered with Wild, so just go to wearewild.com and use the code TheGailyDigest at the checkout for 20% off your first order or subscription. Or click on the link in the description. So what are you waiting for? Go Wild today. Now, we're going to be talking about a subject that is close to Joshua's heart. It's an important subject that affects a lot of people every day and is often so misunderstood. I'm going to be talking to Joshua about his personal experience with this subject, and that subject is about body image and eating disorders. Before we start, I just want to say that I'm very proud of Joshua for being open about this. I know that he has struggled with this in the past, and I know how much this means to him. It means a lot to him to share his experiences with us all. I hope that by sharing his personal experience, it helps with anyone out there who may be experiencing the same struggles, or even for anyone who knows someone going through their own struggles. So, Joshua, if at any point throughout this you need a moment, just let me know.
I will.
Now, as I understand, your experiences with body image and eating disorders started at a young age for you. Take us back to when you first realised you were experiencing body image issues, and tell us how that led into your eating disorder. When did you first start to feel different about your body?
I think, well, growing up, I was always really skinny when I was little, all the way up to all through primary school up to secondary school. I was always really skinny. I would eat loads of stuff, and I just stayed skinny. But then, as soon as I hit about 13, so your typical puberty age, I just started putting on a lot of weight very quickly. And by the time I was about 15, I'd gone to about 15 stones. I was quite big because I'm quite short, and I never really cared about how I looked. Really, I didn't really worry about that. It didn't really bother me. But then, obviously, at school, I started getting a lot of bullying. It got quite severe. Um, Always about my weight. The lads had come up to me and grabbed my chest and compare me to a woman and things like that. Which gradually that started to affect me because it was in front of the whole class and things. So that kind of was how it started to affect the way I saw food or felt like food. But then I'd go home and I would binge eat because it was like a coping kind of thing. So it's kind of like a vicious circle at first.
So, when it came to food, I mean, you say you started to binge eat. Was that
Yes.
more for comfort? Was it an escape? Was it a reward, did you think?
I think kind of it just made me feel better because I did used to really like food when I was younger. I loved food, so I'd eat. it's mainly things like crisps and chocolate snacks, things like that. I would go to the extreme, so I would probably have like 8 packets of crisps in one sitting, um, and the big bars of chocolate. I would just eat the whole thing just to make me feel better. And then obviously over time, when I was starting to feel bad about my weight and how I was looking, but then I was also binge eating, I was starting to feel guilty after I'd eaten it all. So it was kind of, but then when I felt bad again, I'd do it again, and then I'd feel guilty, and it was just kind of this back and forth in my head kind of thing.
And I mean, you say that your experience started when you were at school, and obviously you mentioned that you were bullied because of your weight and the things that they did to you around your appearance, and things that they did. I mean, what kinds of things? I mean, did they say anything to you? Were there things that they said that had an impact on you and an impact on you growing up, and did those things make you change anything about yourself?
Well, a lot of my bullying was because I was compared to all the other lads. I was very small. I was very short. I wasn't sporty. I wasn't really into what most lads would be into at school. I was into like I'd be the kid that comes in and on my lunchtime I'll go and sit in the corner of the field by myself and I'll have my Game Boy with me that I've snuck in and I'll be playing Pokemon and things like that. So I stood out quite a lot. Um, so that was mainly the bullying. It's because I stood out a lot and I was an easy target for a lot of people, but it was mostly physical for me. They were physically hurting me. They would push me downstairs. If behind me, they'd push me when I'm walking downstairs, and then they'd all laugh and say, "Oh, look, the fatty's fell over. He probably can't get up." Things like that. I had them in classes. They would all grab my arm, pin my arm on the table, and then they'd run a compass down my forearm, which was quite severe. That got infected and things like that. I'd have them. I used to love doing food technology because I did enjoy food, and then you'd get to take it home after class. They would wait for me because I had to walk home. They would smash my food on the floor. I was quite excited to get home to show my mom, things like that. So yeah, it was mainly physical things for me, but then it did start to get more verbal. That in the middle, like in the class when it was very busy, they would shout things about my looks and my body, things like that, in front of everybody, which made me feel so tiny. Um, and this went on for years at secondary school, and yeah, I didn't really have. There was no support system back then, really. There was no like mental health nurses. There was nothing like that I could go to. So there was nobody I could speak to about it. And a lot of the time they would say, "Oh, it's just lads being lads. You're part of the lads. You've got to give banter back to them." It was kind of that kind of thing. But I'm not a confrontational person at all. I don't like arguments. I don't like physical aggression, things like that. So that was something I was never going to do. And I think that's why they targeted me, because they knew that I wasn't going to be the person to kind of fight back to them.
Did it make you change anything about yourself?
It made me. I actually stopped doing food technology, which I really enjoyed doing that. I loved that. I stopped doing that, so that would be something that changed. I used to do a bit of PE. I never really liked sports, but I stopped doing PE because I'd have to get changed. I was forced to get changed by the teachers in front of everybody in the changing rooms. They wouldn't let me go. I used to go to like the toilets and change in the cubicles, but they wouldn't let me do that. And then they'd make you shower afterwards. And it was one of these shower blocks where there's no doors; it's just open. And I was not comfortable with that. And the teachers would make you do it. And obviously, when I tried to get changed, they would bang on the doors, try and open it, try and steal my clothes so I couldn't get dressed again, things like that. So I completely stopped doing PE as well, which probably only fed me getting bigger because I wasn't doing any exercise at school either now. So yeah, that's probably a lot of big things that probably affected me. Changed the routes that I'd go home. At school, I used to just walk out of the classroom 10 minutes before the end of school day, just so I had a head start to get home before they could catch up with me. So yeah, little things like that to start with. And then eventually the bullying got so bad I kind of had a bit of a breakdown and I had to do, instead of 6 lessons a day, it was like 3 lessons a day. So I'd have a lesson, go home, then another lesson, go home, another lesson, and then the last lesson I'd always get to go home. So I'd be leaving about 35 minutes before everybody else did. So I didn't ever have that worry then that they were going to catch up to me after school. So they're quite big things that they caused me to change my behaviour. So I became a lot more excluded because I wasn't in as many classes with my friends, things like that. So I spent a lot more time on my own. So that's what I changed.
Hmm. Um, I remember you saying that at the age of 15 you were struggling with anorexia. Um, what was going through your mind at that time?
Well, now I'm older. I've noticed things like some of my relatives, the women in my family, they made comments about their weight and how things like a lot of things like, oh, I'll pay for this later when I'm having a cake, things like that. So me growing up, I always grew up around women. I always liked to be around my aunties and grandma and my mom, like the females. So that kind of language that they used back then, I think, did kind of affect me, and I think that is actually what affected a lot of people of my like my growing up around my age. Um, but yeah, that I think that's probably something that subconsciously started to put things in my mind growing up. Um, but yeah, I my behaviour is just basically it's just comments people made to me, like people close to me, like my granddad used to visit, and he would when he used to come round, as soon as I opened the door, he'd go, "Oh, you've put weight on," and rub my belly, things like this, and then it gets to a point where you feel like you don't know what to do anymore. You need to lose the weight, but you also really binge food because that's your comfort. So you're trying to pick between the two. So it was probably leading up to 15 when I started to get a lot of these thoughts when my secondary school was coming to an end.
And when did you realize that your relationship with food and your body had become dangerous?
Um, I think I was in denial for quite a while because I came to the end of secondary school and I was at my biggest, and I knew I was going to be going to college, and the thought of the thought of having the same kind of bullying at college as I had throughout my secondary school terrified me. Um, I didn't think that I could handle that at all. So I just thought I need to make changes and I need to lose all this weight, no matter the cost, no matter how. I need to just lose it as quick as I can because I was going to college. I finished in, I think, June. I finished secondary school, and I was going to be going to college in September or August sometime. And I felt like I needed to lose it fast, and that's when I started to change how I was eating. I was changing how much I ate, trying to pick healthier options, and then it just kept like I kept lowering how much I was eating more and more, and I probably didn't realise that something was wrong until probably I was 18, so quite a few years before I'd actually accept that something wasn't right.
Because I think you said before your highest point of weight was it 15 stone? I think you said.
Yeah, it's probably a bit over, but yeah, around that.
And I mean, what what was the lowest point you got to?
In weight,
Yeah.
um, I think at my worst, I was probably about 7.5. But even seeing that number, my brain still said, "Oh, you could lose a bit more." What if you just went under 7? Well, just a little bit. You're just a couple of pounds over 7. If you'd lost a couple more, you'd be under 7. So even at that extreme, I still felt like I could lose a bit more.
And that sort of goes along with the body dysmorphia, doesn't it? Because your brain is telling you that you're still not 100% happy. You could still do more, and it's almost like there's nothing stopping you from saying no. That's enough. That's too far now.
Yeah, it's the same as when I was eating, because my eating became very calorie obsessed. So it wasn't just I'd only eat vegetables and things like that. It was like calories, 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 calories. That's all I cared about. Um, and I would count them obsessively. I would write down how many calories I'd had exactly the day that I'd had them, and then the next day I'd try and beat that and eat less than that, and then the next day I'd try and eat less than that, and then it just got lower and lower and lower, and then eventually I was probably eating once, maybe twice a week, um, and I was like drinking a lot of water because that helped me not get hungry.
I was going to ask about that because I think for me, being someone who's not experienced that and doesn't fully understand it, which is why this is helpful to me as well. The question would be, the question gets begged of what stopped you from feeling hungry, or was that a psychological thing where you just didn't feel hungry because your brain was telling you weren't hungry?
You get hungry, you get extremely hungry, you get really bad. Well, I did. I got really, really painful stomach cramps. You can't think straight. You just keep thinking about food. You keep That's all you can think about. You're just constantly thinking food, 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 but you also hate the food. Um, so yeah, it's it's a difficult one because my relationship with food at that point was completely gone. I didn't enjoy it. Didn't want it. Even the looking at food made me feel sick. I didn't want to eat anything.
Hmm. I mean, did anyone did anyone around you at the time realize what was going on? Were there signs that they either saw or missed?
I think about I wouldn't say my family noticed for a while, because I used to do workout, like workout DVDs, like dance ones and things.
Yeah.
I used to do those, so they just thought I was losing weight by eating better and exercising with these videos because they worked full time, both of them, so they never really was there to see me eating. So I'd just say, yeah, I've had some. So they probably didn't realize until I was at the point where I was dangerously thin and I was not well and I was getting a lot of side effects, things like that. So physical, like you could actually see side effects, and then that kind of started to flag things up. But I would say for quite a while, few years, they probably didn't have any idea at all, because the thing with eating disorders is they're very secretive, and you will do anything to hide that you're not eating. So I'd pretend to eat things, or I would open a packet of crisps, tip them in the bin, and then leave the packet on the table. And then they'd say, "Who's left this?" And I go, "Oh, sorry, I left that when I ate them, but I never ate them." So this is what my brain did. It made me plan out lies to cover it up.
And when it comes to friends, family members, loved ones, you obviously say it's quite a secretive thing and things get planned out. With bearing that in mind, what sorts of signs could people look out for, either in themselves or others? If people were to recognise those signs in loved ones, how would be the best way for them to approach it with their loved ones, to reach out to them and support them?
Well, I think it's different for everybody. Um, some people react better to things than others. I personally didn't react well at all. If anybody mentioned what I'd eaten today or anything to do with food and me eating, I would get extremely defensive very quickly. Like, it doesn't matter what you're asking me, even if it's with the best intentions. If you ask me about what I've eaten, I'm instantly defensive. But I think one of the, in my personal experience, the signs were probably I stopped eating dinner with everybody. So we used to always eat around the kitchen table. I stopped doing that. Or if I was made to sit down and eat the food, I'd be picking at it a lot. Um, I was sleeping all the time. I obviously didn't have the energy. If you was talking to me, I would forget what you just told me, and I'd keep asking you to say it again, or I'd zone off and wouldn't respond to you because I'm just not thinking properly. I became very recluse, so I'd stay in my bedroom. I wouldn't really come out. I wouldn't really talk to anybody. Um, I completely stopped eating out. So if it was a restaurant, cafe, anything like that in public, I wouldn't eat anything. But when I was forced to eat around the table, I would eat, but then that kind of caused me to develop a bit of bulimia. So then I would say I need the toilet afterwards, and I would make myself sick. So that's the issue is that you're trying to help and trying to make me eat together, but then I'll just eat it and then I'll just go and make myself sick. So it's difficult to support people with it because it is like treading on eggshells. Um, but I think my dad, when he knew something was wrong, he said, "How can I help you? Is there any food that would make it less distressing for you?" And he, at this point, I was very low. I was at the worst, and I just kind of gave up and said anything with the word diet on it because that made my brain think it's got diet on it, so it's not as bad. So my dad would go out and he'd buy me loads of things that everything had the diet on it. It'd be low fat snack bars and low fat soup and all these different things. And he'd let me keep them in my room so I didn't have to come downstairs to eat them and have people watch me preparing food, things like that. But thinking back now, that probably wasn't a very good thing because that gave me a bad connection with the word diet.
That said, I mean, yes, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and you can look back on that and you can think actually maybe that wasn't a good thing, but at the time, w- could you look at that and think that was your first stepping stone to recovery?
I wouldn't say it was my first stepping stone to recovery because I had a lot of stages after that. This was probably when I was about 17. This is when I was at that point, and it probably did help me actually eat some things because I would have a bit of soup instead of bread. I'd have like rice cakes, things like that. So I did eat a little bit. I was still having at this point probably under 500 calories a day, but I was probably having something every other day now with that rather than once or twice a week. So it kind of probably get me going a bit more and fuel my body a little bit more than what it would have if I didn't have that.
Mm. I mean, you eventually did reach out and you sought therapy. What for you? What was the breaking point that helped you to realise that you needed to seek professional support?
I think I got to a point where I couldn't even get up the stairs to my bedroom. I would have to crawl up the stairs, and it would take me quite a while because I just didn't have energy. I couldn't focus, and um, things like when I had a bath, I couldn't sit in the bath because I was too bony. It was really painful. Um, Things like that. And I said to my mom, I think I need to talk to somebody. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what it is. But I need to talk to somebody. And then that was when I first got an appointment with my doctor. My mum went with me. She sat in the room with me, and they referred me. And I think it took probably about 7, 8 months for me to get that appointment to like a specialized therapy place for eating disorders. And I don't know what they're like now, but back then, this specific one, the first one I went to, because I went to quite a few, this one was one of the most horrifically shameful experiences I've ever had. It was just not it was not pleasant at all. They would I'd have to go every 2 weeks. I would sit at this table and then it would have four doctors on the other side. So it kind of felt a bit like an interrogation to start with. And they would ask me things like, do you take laxatives to make you lose weight? Do you make yourself sick? How many times do you make yourself sick? How much do you eat? How many calories do you have a day? Like, a lot of bombard you with these questions. And then after all these questions, they would just say, okay, see you in 2 weeks. And then you'd go again, and it would just be people sitting around this table again, talking to me like I'm being judged, while I'm being questioned, and it'd be four doctors every single time. And it just made me feel very small again, because they're asking me these really personal questions. They would weigh me in front of all four of them. They would ask to see how bony I am, because I used to wear a lot of baggy clothes to hide it. So they would ask me to remove my top. And that, for someone with body image dysmorphia and an eating disorder, and the way I was feeling, having to do that in a room with four people that I didn't know who they are, really made me worse. And I think after the third session of that, I completely stopped going. I said, I can't do this anymore, because it wasn't helping me. It wasn't offering me any support other than quizzing me every 2 weeks and just seeing how bad I got. It was like waiting for me to get to a point where they could take over or something like that, rather than help me before I get to that point. So yeah, that first experience of the so-called therapy was horrific for me, and that probably put me off asking for help after that one.
Mm. I mean, what for you? What was the best form of therapy that you got?
Well, I'm not a very social person, and back then I really wasn't very social. I didn't like talking to strangers because I'm quite an anxious person. Um, After about another 9 months after that, I asked my doctor to refer me somewhere else, and I had to go to a one-on-one therapy one that specialised in eating disorders. And after being with those for about a month, they recommended that I go to my local hospital every 2 weeks, and it was in a group setting. At first, I weren't going to go for this, because the idea of sitting in a group and talking about things that I was in denial about was terrifying to me. I didn't want to do that. But I did go, um, and it took a long time for me to start talking in them. A lot of the time, I'd listen for quite a while. But yeah, eventually, after hearing the other people, because there was quite a few of us, hearing them say how they felt and what they'd gone through, and a lot of it was started with bullying at school, things like this. I started to relate with them a lot and feel similarities in the stories, and I started to feel like I wasn't the odd one out. I wasn't on my own. I could talk about it. But the thing with this is it was all females, so I was the only male there. So that kind of added a bit more worry in my mind. So I'm like, oh God, am I supposed to be here then? Because I'm the only man here. But
I
yeah,
think,
the group one was probably the right place for me to end up in the end.
yeah, I mean, I think eating disorders are often seen as something that only affects women, which we know is not true. But how did it feel being the only male in the group?
Like I said, it felt like I didn't belong there. I shouldn't be there. Um, or that maybe I don't really have it because it seems to only be females that have it, not men. So yeah, I had a lot of those kind of thoughts that I didn't belong there. So that was something I did have to overcome.
Hmm. I mean, do you think that being LGBTQ plus people from our community are adversely affected by body image issues and eating disorders?
Yes, I feel quite strongly about this. I think that in our community it is very prevalent. Everything is all about the gym, working out all the time, having a six pack, being really skinny. And if you're outside of that box, you're kind of shunned by quite a large portion of the community. Um, and I think, especially with social media now, which I'm kind of glad I didn't have that when I was going through this, it's very much about people that look a certain way. So they're very muscular and good looking and all this. They get a million times more attention than what someone who just looks like me does. And I think a lot of people that are LGBT plus and they're having body issues and this is what they're surrounded by, they could feel that they need to look this way in order for people to like them, because if they don't look this way, they're not part of the community. They're kind of shunned out. And I see that quite a lot on the social media.
So you'd say that'd have quite a negative impact on a lot of people within our community.
I would say so, yes, because even now, after what, how long has it been now? A very long time since I've had my main issues. Even now, or over the last 10 years, I can see how much it's pushed into our community and how much it affects people. Like you have people saying, "Oh, I've had a pizza. Look, I've gotten really fat now. I need to go to the gym." And then they'll put a picture up of them, and they have a six pack, and there's no fat on them. So
Mm,
that kind of comment and that kind of thing does affect people. And if people see that and think, "God, if that's fat and they need to go to the gym, what am I?" So this is the kind of toxic body kind of imaging that we have on social media and in the community in general.
mm. I mean, do you think that that's like a form of body dysmorphia in itself, in that, yes, they have that body type, but are they, do you think some of it's ignorance as well, that they don't realize the impact what they're saying is having and they're just making a joke? Or do you think they actually see themselves as being fat because they've eaten something like a pizza, even though they're not, and that could be their brain telling them they look
Yeah,
fat?
I think some people do it on purpose because they know it's going to get them attention. They want people to say, "No, you're not. You're gorgeous. You've got loads of muscles, all this kind of thing." But if they've grown up, even in my era, or even in the generation that come after me, grew up with social media, I can understand why they would have body issues. They're going to think that they have to go to the gym, they have to go every day or pretty much every day. They can't have treats like pizza or chips, things like that. And if they do, they have to punish themselves by going to the gym. So yes, I understand body image dysmorphia isn't just people who are overweight or people that are really skinny. It can be people that are at the peak of fitness. They have all the muscles you could ever want. They're really healthy. They eat healthy, everything, but they can also suffer from it, and they can still see themselves as skinny or overweight, things like this. So it affects everybody on all sides, and that's why it needs to be talked about.
Yeah. Well, I understand. I mean, obviously, you were part of this support group, and I appreciate this is very sensitive, much like the whole subject is, but I understand that you're the only one that's survived from that support group, and that's quite a heavy thing to think about. But how does that loss affect you today? How does that make you feel?
It's still difficult to think about it, um, because a lot of the time we'd be coming over. We got quite close because we're sharing literally some of the most personal thoughts and feelings that we were having, and we weren't even talking to our family about some of the things we were feeling. And so we became our own little family, and I did come very close with all of them, and we would show up every 2 weeks, and we'd be scared to talk about things, but we'd also be excited to talk about other things like what we've been up to and things like that. But it started after a while when I'd come back every 2 weeks. Sometimes someone wouldn't be there, and um, yeah, sometimes people wouldn't be there, and then we'd ask what's happened, and a lot of the time they had unfortunately unalived themselves because they couldn't cope with it, um, or they'd just got the body just couldn't cope with not eating and the overexercising. The body just couldn't deal with it, and they just stopped working. So yeah, that happened quite quickly actually. For quite a while, we were all meeting every 2 weeks. We were all doing great, but then obviously it's a very secretive thing, and even the people that are the closest to you hide. So a lot of them weren't doing as well as they were making out. So some of them we found that when we were doing the weigh-ins, you don't have to do it in front of everybody at this group. We'd go into a side room and we'd do it, and they wouldn't tell us what the numbers are. But they found out that a lot of them were like putting things in their pocket or their waistbands to make them heavier on the scale, but they weren't eating. So yeah, but it still affects me now. You have a lot of, well, kind of like survival guilt because I do think now and again about it. Why am I the only one left? Why me, not them? Um, but I think it kind of makes me try harder to overcome it, and I still struggle even now and again. I'll still have moments where I'm struggling with my eating or how I feel about myself. But I've learnt to communicate it, so I'll talk to people closest to me and I'll say how I'm feeling, how it's affecting me, and I'll think about those that are not here anymore and push to make sure I still am. That's all I can do.
As we know, recovery can take a long time for a lot of people, and I think it can be subjective depending upon what it is that someone's recovering from. But obviously, recovering from or getting better from eating disorders, it can take different paths. I mean, what kind of path did your recovery take? Did you face any bumps in the road? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think it's something that you don't just recover from it and it's gone. That's not how it works.
Mm.
For me anyway, it's still here. It's still there in the back of my mind. I think it's something that you don't get rid of. You take power off. You take power away from it, and you have the power over it now. So use if I have thoughts about how I look, I try my best to counter that. Body image is still something that I do really struggle with, um, but I try my best to push back on that. But in regards to food, I still don't fully enjoy food as much. I think that kind of relationship's always been rocky and it always will be, I think. But I think it's a process of learning to talk about it. I think talking about it is probably the most important thing for me. breaking down that secretiveness. So rather than hiding things and being secretive, I just tell the people closest to me as soon as I can, because that way it's out. I can't hide it then. Um, so yeah, I think that's my biggest thing, and I think asking for help now. Now I'm at a point where if I need help, I'll say I'm struggling. I need some help, and it's difficult. It's not easy, but that's things that I've learned to do. And I think if I didn't do that, um, I probably would relapse, because I have had a couple of relapses over the since then.
Mm.
Not for quite a while now, years, but it's something that could happen again. Hopefully not, but yeah, it's just something that you just have to learn to manage it and
Yeah.
change your thought process on it.
And what would you think, or what do you think are the biggest misconceptions people have about eating disorders?
Well, going on things that were said to me, it's a lot of people thought that it was for attention. A lot of people think it's vain. Um, like you care so much about how you look. That's all you care about. That's your personality. But that's couldn't be further from the truth. Um, it's more about control. So if you have things that you can't control in life, this is something that you can control. Nobody else can. Um, but yeah, a lot of people think it's vanity. I have a lot of people that would say, "I'll just eat, just have something to eat." It's not that difficult, because you take it for granted that you can just go and cook dinner and eat the dinner, and it's that easy. But for some people, it really isn't that easy, and it's a lot more difficult than you think it is. And having that relationship and that fear of eating something that you literally need to survive, you need it to live, and you're choosing to restrict yourself doing that. Um, it's not a vain thing. It's not an attention seeking thing. It's just it's just the thoughts in your head. You have this second voice in your head that's pushing back on any thoughts of hunger and things like that. It will push back and say, you don't need to eat that. If you eat that, you're gonna get fat, you're gonna get big, you're gonna get bullied again. So there's a lot of things to overcome, and it's a very difficult thing. And but yeah, just a lot of people think it's vanity or attention seeking, and that's something that does irritate me when people insinuate that.
And for people who are struggling now, what would you say to them? What message would you have for them?
I think all I can say is ask for help. I know it's not easy, and I know it's terrifying, but you'll be grateful in future that you did, because it's best to do it now before it's too late. Because as I said earlier, I've lost a lot of people to this, and it's not just me that suffered from that; it's their families. Um, and you don't want to leave you don't want to leave that pain, and people don't want to see you suffer. There's a future for you, and this is something that you will overcome. You just need to ask for help. And there is a lot of places nowadays online that you can get help, you can get support. I didn't have that when I was growing up, but in today's day, there's a lot more support out there. There's a lot more people that will be there to help you, and just take it one day at a time. And if you hit a bump in the road, that's going to happen, because I've hit many of them. But you just have to get back up again and keep walking and keep pushing against it and keep trying. That's all you can do.
And finally, how can we, as a society, do better when it comes to body image, bullying, and eating disorder awareness?
I think that body shaming is a big issue, especially in our community. And I think we need to challenge it. When we see people body shaming, we need to challenge it. We need to call it out. We need to tell them that this isn't okay. because you don't know who's going to hear those words or read those words, and when people read those words, it can have serious effects on them. And I think we need to just be kinder to each other, and we just need to learn that everybody's different. Everybody's a different shape. Everyone's a different height. Everybody looks different. And if we all looked the same, it'd be a boring world. And I think we need to treat people with respect, and we need to stop this obsessive this obsession with how we look in the world, because we're bombarded with it in the media and things like this. And I think we need to keep pushing for companies to be open about different body shapes and sizes. We need to push people to be more open about how they're feeling in regards to their body image, and just let people know that people like me are there if you need to talk about these things, because people who've gone through these things like I have, you're still here, you've got over it. So imagine if you had yourself back then when you were struggling, someone like you to talk to and to get you through it, because I didn't have that. So if there's anybody that I can help and I can talk to and I can help in any way that's going through what I used to go through, that's what I will do. And I think that's what others should do as well.
Well, hopefully, people listening to this um, will have listened to your experiences, what you've gone through, and how you've dealt with it. And like you say, it's not something you would ever fully recover from. It's something that will always be there. But it's something you can manage. It's something you can have in your mind that keeps you going, because you'll remember what you've gone through and what you've done to get you to where you are now, and you can keep doing that.
That's right.
It's now competition time, where one of our lucky listeners can win copies of A Conifer and Imaginary Remains by Joe Glass. These copies will be signed by the author himself. But before we reveal how you can win copies, we're going to listen to the author himself give us a little bio and an explanation of what his stories are about.
Hi, I'm Joe Glass. I'm the writer and creator behind various LGBTQ plus inclusive comics and novels, such as The Pride, Young Men in Love, The Miracles, A Conifer, and the upcoming book coming out on February the 11th, Crisis of Infinite Boyfriends. I got into writing from a fairly early age. I can't really specify what exactly got me into it, other than I just really like telling stories to all my friends in school and everything. So I used to make these little cheapo little zine things to get stories out to my friends. So yeah, that's kind of what got me into writing. I still do it now because I just have a deep love for writing and sharing stories, and I try to share stories which include a little bit of my world and my life in it in some way. So that's why A Conifer is set in Comic Cons, and The Pride is about my love of superheroes. So yeah, it's that's kind of a bit about me and what I do.
Thanks for that, Joe. Now here's Joshua to tell us a little bit more about each book, and he's going to have a question for you, and I'm going to explain to you how you can win.
Yes, thank you, Joe, for that. A Conifer is a heartfelt gay romance set in the world of comic conventions. It follows Aaron Wilson, an aspiring comic book writer, and Cameron Perkins, an energetic cosplayer, whose connection grows across various cons. But as Aaron's career takes off, their relationship is put to the test. Can love and ambition coexist? And then we have Imaginary Remains. This is a collection of 15 short stories that explore the early stages of Joe's writing journey. Spanning a range of genres and themes, these stories offer a fantastic look at the ideas that shaped his later works. And to get a chance to win these signed copies, all you have to do is answer this question. What is the primary art created by Aaron?
So we've had a think about how you can enter, and we've decided that you can enter more than once, and you can enter in a variety of different ways. You can enter by placing your answer in the comments section of this episode on YouTube, or you can email your answer to thegailydigest@gmail.com, or you can quote a post that we will be putting out after this episode has aired that will repeat the question, and all you need to do is quote the post with your answer, and we will decide on a winner who will be announced on our next episode. So until then, good luck, and that is all we've got time for this episode. So until next time, stay safe and be happy.